So in this video, I want to talk about Ravel Phenex, and not just her as a character as well, but also one of the things that is a core component of sort of her characteristics, which is the Tsundere kind of archetype. Now, here's the thing about her. Some people could easily argue that she's not actually a Tsundere, and many people could argue that she is. In my opinion, I do lean more towards referring to her as a Tsundere. Now, for those that, of course, don't know her history, of course you do. You're watching my video. But to give a basic summary for context is that Ravel Phenex didn't have feelings for Issei Hyoto before the duel happened between her brother and him. Then she developed feelings at or after the duel, and then things developed from there. And she's definitely been seen as that Tsundere archetype, and also kind of having a bit of a prickly personality when it comes to other certain members that are associated to Issei. But here's the thing about Ravel Phenex. In the anime, she's not as beloved, which is understandable because, well, the anime is only covers so much of the source material. But there is a lot more source material after the anime, which I, of course, cover on the channel in light novel reviews and breakdowns. So if you want that kind of content, stick around on the channel. But later on in the light novels, Ravel Phenex develops quite significantly. And I'm not going to go into heavy spoilers, but she does become a key component of Issei's life. She does assist him in many things, and of course, people will gather, she develops stronger and stronger and stronger feelings. That is obvious. That's the point of the series, that these girls fall in love with him, and he allows them, well, he builds up a harem. But one of the things that I do like about Ravel Phenex is that Tsundere component. And one of the issues that I have with a lot of new literature these days is Tsundere is not being developed really well. And it feels like as time has gone on over the years, the word Tsundere has kind of lost a lot of its meaning, and it's more just used as an excuse to justify a character being an absolute douchebag or a cow, and then suddenly the writer decides to flip the script and go, oh, actually she was in love with the main protagonist all along, but you get no genuine idea that there is any feelings there other than maybe it's like imprinted on the series being like, yes, this character will one day fall in love with the main protagonist, but right now she hates them, she despises them, she shows no interest whatsoever, and then suddenly, psych, we flick a switch, and then people go, but see, that's a Tsundere, and it's like, well, no, because to me, a Tsundere is someone that, yes, plays hard to get, is the most basic principle, but they themselves show inkling of feelings and emotions, and I've met Tsundere type chicks in real life. I know some people say there's no such thing as Tsunderes in real life. Trust me, there are. There's a reason why it's a trope. But that's the thing, is that you generally have an idea that the character has feelings towards the main protagonist. It's just that they're playing that sort of hard to get, being a little bit cold and a little bit distant. But then as time goes on, as the story builds up, they slowly remove that barrier and they become more and more and more connected. Ravel Phenex is brilliantly done in that manner, where she has that Tsundere component, where she is a little bit distant, a little bit prickly. Then the development for her and Issei happen, and they become a lot more closer. There's a bond there, and a lot of that is also developed because of her relationship with Issei and that managing role that she plays with Issei. So it allows that connection to also make sense. It's not just like, oh, he defeats the brother and then suddenly she's head over heels. No, she starts to develop feelings. She starts to build those building blocks of falling in love with Issei. And that is one of the good things about High School DxD, is that it doesn't just throw girls madly in love with him overnight. They build feelings. Some of the characters definitely are a little bit quicker, and some of them are a bit more slower, which is also a good thing. Not every character develops their feelings equally and in the same manner and for the same reasons. Ravel is one of those, and I feel like Ravel's feelings build over time because of a collection of things and a lot of things lining up to allow them to build that connection, which is of course the managerial kind of thing. But going back to the original point, is that Tsunderes to me have lost a lot of meaning. A lot of writers try to innovate the wheel, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that we are in an age of abundance when it comes to storytelling. It's one of the major reasons why a lot of people just want continuations and reboots of older series, because those have a lot more pure, better, well-written stories, while some writers, not all, because there are always still some gems out there that come out, but there are a lot of stories these days that just kind of either copy-paste what's already been done, and it feels like it's just, again, the same series with a new slap of coat of paint on it, and it really doesn't feel anything interesting, and you're kind of like, okay, I'd rather just go reconsume the original version that you're trying to imitate. Or they try and break the mold so much and try and create something all brand new that they try and reinvent the wheel, and it ends up just being a box as a wheel, and it just doesn't function. It's just, it falls apart. And that is where I think the word tsundere comes into play, because I feel like some writers are trying to create tsunderes, but they're not tsunderes. They're just douchebags of characters, female characters that are like, oh yeah, I hate you, I despise you, everything about you I hate. I'm going to show no feelings towards you whatsoever, give no indications that I'm in love with you whatsoever. And then suddenly near the end of the story, I'm going to flick a switch, or the writer will, and then suddenly it's, oh, I'm madly in love with you and I felt this way all this time, and it was all just me being a tsundere. It's like, no. Again, for me, when I look at stories that have tsunderes, I look at High School DxD as a different type. And I would say Ravel Phenex is on the mild end of a tsundere, because there are many different scales to a tsundere. But I think the scale has gone too far extreme, where it's just no longer tsunderes. And there are people that defend it because they've got a kink and a fetish for tsunderes. But reality is, they're not into a tsundere. They're just into a sexual harassment lawsuit. I just feel like the essence of tsunderes have kind of been lost over the years, because writers are trying to make the character more harder to get, to the point where it does feel like that. It just feels like if this was a real world situation, you would have a restraining order on you. Because it'd just be like, it's clear and obvious that the character doesn't like you, but the writer's trying to gaslight themselves and gaslight the reader, even though there is no hints there. And I feel like that's bad character design. Ravel Phenex is not one of those. Another great example of a good tsundere would be Baka and Test. If you don't know what that series is, phenomenal, great series. But it has a tsundere in there. Another one would be My Bride is a Mermaid. Those two types of tsunderes that you can have. There's also like Love Hyena. I love Hyena. That's another tsundere. There are many different versions of a tsundere, but you understand that they're a tsundere. This is why I love Ravel Phenex. I think she is a very well-written, constructed character when it comes to that archetype, that she's more of a mild end when it comes to what is classified as a tsundere. And like I said, that development as time goes on is absolutely brilliantly done, but it's one of those where you need to get into the light novels to fully get that scope of where it makes sense. She is that pompous little girl. She does have that bit of background. Ravel is the youngest child among the 4 Phoenix siblings. And so there's that kind of little bit of spoiled kind of thing going on as well. And her being traded by her brother, and then her ended up being in the service of Issei, it's a journey that she has gone through, and she's definitely had a lot of life experiences as well because of these different things. But yeah, being the youngest out of them all definitely leads to those kind of situations where you could kind of feel like, well, she's the youngest, she gets the most spoiled, so she's kind of developed. And she is royalty, so naturally, you also add on the royalty component, you add on the youngest. She's gonna have a bit of a chip on her shoulder, and being a pure blood, like royalty, again, it's gonna really puff up her self-importance and a little bit of a, again, adds to that tsundere component. And that's where it makes sense. Because she is royalty. She is a pure blood. She is the youngest. So she's got some of that tsundere-ish kind of foundations and background. And that's, again, why I love Ravel Phenex. And the aesthetics as well is really adorable. That blonde, curly hair, the kind of the red. It depends on where you're at the story, because she has a different aesthetics, wears different things. But I just love Ravel Phenex as a character. I think she deserves so much more love. But it always comes down to the fact that anime-only fans are more used to the tried and true girls, the Akuno, the Rias, the Konako, all of those characters, because Ravel is still yet to be major developed. And even if, say, hypothetically, a season 5 was to happen, that still won't be enough time. You would need a season 6 or a 7 or even an 8 to really give Ravel, depending on how many volumes would be covered, to really give her the time to really run track. I love her as a character. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you love about Ravel Phenex? What characteristics do you enjoy about it? I love the Tsundere component, that povish little kind of look to her. It definitely falls into that kind of like step on you kind of attitude. And that's the thing, I do like my Tsunderes. But I also do feel like I mentioned some essences of what is a Tsundere has been lost over the years because writers are trying to break the norm. They're trying to create something truly new and innovative, and in the same sense, they've lost something that is what we enjoyed about it. Again, love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who's your favorite girl? If you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.